So hello, welcome again to SeniorFlix. Today the emphasis is on culture and different cultures. And so today we're privileged to have Lenore Carter with us. She grew up in Grenada, and so she's going to tell us a bit about Grenada and about her journey in Canada and her likes and dislikes. And so we'll just talk a bit then, Lenore. So you grew up in Grenada?
Yes, I did. Grenada is a very small island in the Caribbean. And if you look on the map, you will see there's South America and North America. And we are very close to South America, right in the corner and the right-hand side. And it's just a dot.
Yeah.
And it's the Windward Islands. There are quite a few little islands.
Yeah.
But it is so beautiful with lots of beautiful trees. It's hilly.
Yeah.
And it has waterfalls, a big lake. And of course, it's an island, so there's lots of fishing and beaches.
Yeah.
And when you look at it, you can hardly see that it's just a dot compared to Canada.
Yeah, yeah. So were you part of a big family then, Lenore? Or?
Well, my mother was the last of 10 children and my father the last of 10 children.
Okay.
But I only had 2 half-sisters.
Yes.
So I had so many cousins.
Okay.
And I had lots of uncles and aunts.
Yeah.
And the village is quite small up in the hills, and everybody knows everybody else.
Yeah.
And so it was just like family.
So that must have been difficult leaving Grenada, because when you left Grenada, you went to England first, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
And that was to go to school in England, but I was going to a missionary school on the island, and they was the means of me going to South Wales, Swansea in England.
Oh, yeah.
And because Mrs. Large, who was the lady, she was Welsh, so I was able to go there. I had meet her friends and also the church people. So they welcomed me, and also in the hospital, I had many friends with the students.
So so what were you doing in South Wales?
I learned, I started off doing general nursing, 3 years of nursing.
Yeah.
And then I went on to do midwifery, which is about delivering babies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've delivered a few babies in your life?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. So then, so you spent some time in Wales?
Yes.
And in England?
And in England, up in Leeds. I went to Leeds, and also in London. And London was where I did my Part 2 missionary, not missionary, delivering the babies, which was very interesting.
Yeah.
Because the River Thames,
Yeah.
there were people living on it, and sometimes you had to go and deliver a baby there.
Yeah.
And also I had to have a bicycle, and I would just be riding along the street day or night. And the policemen were called bobbies.
Yes.
And they would meet you and sort of in the nighttime escort you back to the hospital.
Yes.
And they took care of you when they saw you riding this bicycle at nighttime.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But to me, it was all a part of learning and enjoying it.
So how long did you live in Britain?
5.5 years.
And then
when I went back to Grenada, and my family has a store selling goods and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
And they wanted me to join them. And so I didn't work as a nurse. But then someone from Canada came, and she said, "Why are you working in the store and not nursing. And I told her, and she said, when I go back to Canada, I am going to send the papers so that so I didn't have, I just said, okay, you can do it.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
not with any real desire
Yeah.
to come to Canada.
Yeah.
And in 3 months, I got the papers, and the hospital where she trained was Hamilton General Hospital
Yes.
on Barton Street. And
Yeah.
they said, you can come and we have a place for you to stay. And I thought, oh, that was amazing.
Yes.
And I liked to travel. And I looked up in the map, and there was all these lakes and all these lovely places in Canada.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, I would love to visit them.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so when was that? What year was that roughly?
1935, August 1935.
Well, you did.
I mean, sorry, 65.
1965, yeah.
65. I was born in 36.
Yeah.
And that was August 65.
So you worked in Hamilton for a while?
1 year, yes.
And
then I came to Toronto.
Okay. Was that a good move for you, Lenore? Were you happy to move to Toronto?
The reason was that you had to do an exam here in Ontario,
Yeah.
and you got paid for it, better paid.
Yeah.
Because when you came to Canada, it was the English. I was an English trained nurse, so you had to have an exam. You had to take an exam.
Yes.
And each, if it's Ontario or wherever it is, in Canada you had to take it. And so it was down here in Toronto that I had to do it.
Yes.
So I decided with a friend, we went into Toronto General and asked if we can, if they would accept us, and they did.
Yes.
And then there's certain times were set for this exam.
Yes.
And we were able to take it.
Yeah.
So that was the reason.
So was that your vocation then for the rest of your working life?
Right.
Nursing?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, that's something. I mean, I'll just talk here for a minute. So I've known Lenore for a long time. There's a lot more to her story than she has told us. She's told me about some of her family history, and it's really touching. You've got a touch of slavery in there, just back a few generations, Lenore, and stuff like that, which is really, to me, it's just heart-wrenching. So anyway, so how long have you lived at Shepherd Village now then, Lenore?
It is 12 years now.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing how I came to Shepherd Village.
Yeah.
Because when I had lived here and worked here for a number of years, then my parents, both my parents in Grenada, they had got sick. And I had to go back and look after them. And so I was away from Canada for a while.
Yes.
And then my husband also died, so it was just one sister I had, much younger than me, who lived in Toronto. She had come up to work, but she worked as she was a accountant, and and she said, "Come back to Canada and live with me." And I said, fine. And in an amazingly short time, she got cancer and died. And I was going to People's Church, and where she lived in North York, it was a big place, and I went to People's Church one morning and I said, do you know anybody that, any place that I can get to? I was in my 70s then. So I said, I'd like a senior's place because I didn't want to stay in the big place that my sister had.
Yes.
And she rented it, you see.
Yes.
And so I met Barton Osborne, Barton, who lives here.
Yes.
And she said, go to Shepherd Village. And I said, where is that? She said, just go on the bus. Just take the Shepherd East bus, and they'll tell you where to get off.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh.
Yeah.
And I did.
Yeah.
And when I got here, it was a lady at the desk, and I told her, she said, well, you know, you have to wait 1 or 2 years, but you never know. And I went back, and I was prepared to wait.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, it was so amazing how God works, because my sister had passed, and her name was Linda. And I had been paying the rent for 3 months after she had passed. And it was a new man at the desk, and he was a Jew. It was a Friday, and he had his little hat on.
Yes.
And I said, they called me and told me that I could come in a matter of 10 months. And so I went to this man and I said, I know that I have to give 2 months' rent, but is it possible that I could get 1 month's rent, because I have another place to stay? And he said, Linda? And I said, no, I am not Linda. He said, well, you're not in the system, so you can go anytime.
Okay. So God found a way out for you.
Yes.
Wonderful, yeah.
Yes.
Now, since you've been at Shepherd Village, you don't do much here, do you, Lenore? Says he. You're pretty active here, aren't you?
Yes.
But do you want to tell us some more about Grenada and what was happening there, what sort of stuff grows there, and
Yes,
what
okay.
good stuff to eat and things like that?
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I brought along a very big picture of the nutmeg.
The nutmeg.
Yes.
Okay.
And it happens that Grenada has, can you see it?
Yeah. Okay.
It's very big compared to the nutmeg, but it happens that the nutmeg is the only spice we have in Grenada and not the other islands of the Caribbean, except Indonesia, I've been told, for export. They might have a few trees on the other island, but we are the main exporter of the nutmeg.
Interesting, yeah.
And not only that, it's just amazing. It's a big tree with, this is the outside part. That has its own way of earning its money. There's the mace inside. That is for another thing. Then there's the nut in here. And all that can be used in a very wonderful way. For instance, out here, this is like a pear inside, but it's not a nice tasting. You have to cook it. And so the people, there's a lady there, she's French background. Her daughter now, she's passed, but they have a factory where they make syrup and jams out of this part. And it is used in the restaurants very much in the liquor. They would put it in the liquor, you know, to give it a taste. So it has a very nice taste as a syrup. So you will see it in the store as maple syrup in a bottle like that, or like it would look like that, but it gets a nice red color. And you would see it in the, she's exporting it to different parts. I don't know how far, maybe the Caribbean, but it's well liked in the bars.
I see.
And then this part is the mace that's dried, and it's, I've been told, some part of the mace making oil. That oil is used in aeroplanes.
Oh, really?
Yes, I've been told that. And then the nutmeg inside, you have to dry it so that it would shake. I have some there. And of course, that is used some of it is used in sausages, I'm told.
Yeah.
They're spicy.
Yeah.
And also, of course, we use nutmeg in
Yeah.
other things. And then the shell on the outside there, people can burn it like coal.
Yeah. So that's an all-purpose
Yeah.
all-purpose thing.
Yes.
That's good. Yeah.
And I have brought my flag because I didn't even remember that there is a nutmeg on our flag.
Oh yes, I see that. Yeah. Okay. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So Grenada is famous for
For the nutmeg.
the nutmeg. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So a dried nutmeg would be very small. That's very big there, but a dried nutmeg would be, this is what the mace would look like when it's dried.
Okay. Yeah.
And there's the nutmeg,
Well, that's the okay.
and it's shaking, so it's good.
Yeah.
And then the ladies would make, the men would make a little thing like that,
Okay.
a grater, and you grate the nutmeg and you put it on your porridge or anything like that.
Okay. Yeah. But now, since you've been at Shepherd Village, you're pretty active in stuff here, Lenore. I mean, I kidded about you not doing too much, but you're pretty active here, aren't you?
Well, you know, my parents have all been, my grandmother, my aunts, sewers. So
Okay.
I like to make things. From a kid, I was always making things. And so it's sewing, painting,
Yeah.
doing all kinds of things.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how my friend here on the fifth floor where I am, she likes to do these things too.
Yeah.
And for my birthday, she gave me this. She did it on the machine.
Yeah.
And it's
What does that say? I
I-
feed my soul
with
the stitches I sew.
and the
words
word of God.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
here, it's such a wonderful place because they have Bible study, they have prayer meetings, they have a church right here, and I can't get around much now.
Yeah.
And so it's just wonderful
Yeah.
that I can take part in all these things.
And you do some of the decorating in the church with
Yeah.
the things, and you made a beautiful card for my friend who was terminally ill here, my friend Bruce. And,
Right.
so much appreciated that, Lenore.
But God gave me all these gifts.
There you go. Yeah.
And my family,
Yeah.
they too encourage me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just speaking personally now, Lenore, but somehow you'll have to get invited back here because there's a lot more to your history than, I mean, the little I know about that. You've got a really interesting history. We tend to read about those things in history books and the colonial times and blah 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 like that. And you've got a real life story to tell about that. So we'll have to talk to these people, Lenore, and get you invited back. So
Well,
no, that's good. So that's just wonderful as far as I'm concerned. So I know for myself, Lenore, I've really appreciated being able to talk to you. And I talk to you on a fairly regular basis in Shepherd Village, and so that's been really good for us. So from the standpoint of SeniorFlix, Lenore, I would say thank you so much.
well, thank you for having me.